and 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, 89.3 Lakes FM. It's the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it.
Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer.
Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be like happy, having fun everywhere.
Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Pauline didn't flush.
Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+. How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
My Michigan TV is streaming everywhere on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and more smart TV apps. My Michigan TV is on your phone too. Take us with you wherever you go. Just search for My Michigan TV on your favorite app store or visit mymitv.com. All Michigan, streaming everywhere. My Michigan TV.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where children trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines on our local news page on CivicCenterTV.com. Our first article today comes from WDIV-TV Detroit's Cassidy John Cox. A woman is believed to be responsible for the January 1st hit and run that killed Shelby Township resident and Michigan State student Benjamin Kimmel, has reportedly fled the country to Thailand. Kimmel, who was 22 years old, was reportedly walking home from a party early in the morning on New Year's Day when a woman struck him with her vehicle, then, quote, remained in the area for a short period of time, and closed quote. Kimmel was later pronounced dead at the scene of the crime. Witnesses were able to describe the vehicle, and it was eventually tracked down by law enforcement back to an Oakland Township resident who was declared then a person of interest but not arrested in the case. Directly quoted from this article, quote, the FBI believes the woman, who is about 58 years old, fled the country after the crash and headed for Thailand, and closed quote. She is believed to have booked a one-way flight out of the country on January 3rd, taking the U.S. citizen to her country of origin, that being Thailand. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office is working closely on the case with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to bring the woman back to the country and hold her to justice, as she is now accused of, quote, traveling internationally with intent to avoid prosecution or imprisonment, and closed quote. Also making headlines today from Sarah Rahal and Hannah McKay at the Detroit News. Henry Ford Health announced yesterday an astounding $2.5 billion plan to develop a hospital complex in Detroit's New Center area, tearing down the Health Alliance plant headquarters to make room for the state-of-the-art facility. It will be built in the model of Henry Ford's West Bloomfield Hospital location, with private rooms as well as other amenities available in the community. Said CEO and President Bob Riney, quote, this reimagined hospital will feature all private patient rooms, something that Detroiters deserve, just as well as Michiganders, with dedicated spaces for care teams, family members, and visitors, and closed quote. The new facility will also hold partnership in research with Michigan State University for clinical trials, precision medicine, AI, and more, according to Riney as well. All in all, the new hospital will turn Henry Ford's Detroit home in the New Center area into a fully walkable community, revolutionizing that particular area of Detroit. Big news in the D on Wednesday afternoon. Finally making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com on our local news page from Marina Johnson at the Detroit Free Press. Winter weather, schminter weather. It's a warm day here in Michigan, but with the good news of the warmth comes some bad news to balance it out in our weather system. Expect rain throughout the day, as well as a windy day throughout the course of the morning and through the evening. The National Weather Service has issued a wind advisory through 10 p.m. tonight, with chances of gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Highs today top out at about 58 degrees, unseasonably warm for February, with tonight's low temperatures around 36 degrees, 4 degrees above freezing. Then on Friday, a bit more normalcy in our temperatures, with highs around 39 degrees and a low of 24. This weekend, it will be much of the same in regard to Friday's weather and most of the weather from this particular week, with our high on Saturday being 36 degrees and a low of 26, with Sunday topping out at 43 degrees on the high end and a low of 29 degrees. All of those headlines today making news on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, along with links to COVID-19 updates from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll have our weekly mental health talk with Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more on our website and keep up to date with us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan, including My Michigan TV, our co-flagship, and find all of our full shows and each individual interview on demand as well. All of that's on our website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now on the program for our weekly mental health talk is Carrie Krawiec, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on as we are approaching what is known as the love holiday, the big love holiday of the year on Valentine's Day next week, coming up on Tuesday. And love is always something that's a complicated emotion and a complicated part of human life. And it can lead to a number of different things in a relationship between a couple that may not be so great for either individual overall. So when we talk about love as an emotion and the way that affects the brain, that affects our behavior, just how much of an effect can that have on our behavior?
Well, absolutely. They call it falling in love. They don't call it staying balanced in love or being normal in love. So, those initial phases really feel at times out of control. And now it's part of that loss of control that makes them feel exciting and exhilarating and euphoric. And also that loss of control can make us feel a little bit endangered or at risk.
And as you talk about the saying falling in love, there's also the cliche, love is blind. And with love comes a certain sense of a blind spot in some areas and others that can develop over time as you fall in love with someone, as your love for somebody grows, whether that is in a romantic relationship, or just love you have for a friend or a family member or someone else in your life. How do those blind spots sort of develop, and how does love affect having sort of blind spots for behaviors that may not be so great among people that are in your life?
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the positives before we move to the negatives to kind of make it all make sense.
Sure.
So you're absolutely right. Falling in love is a little bit of an extension of our earliest relationship experiences, which is attachment, right? Which is the bonds that we hold to the people who are closest to us, the people that keep us safe, the people that keep us accepted, and the people who respond to us when we're in need. So attachment and healthy attachment, like say, for example, in our parent-child relationships, we want to feel safe and responded to and connected, especially in times of need. In our adult relationships, that's also true. In falling in love, that sort of euphoric phase, that phase, like you said, some of those blind spots, those rose-colored glasses, the sense that this is the best person you've ever met and everything about them is the most attractive and the most perfect for you. It's those positives that help to satisfy that sort of that initial stickiness of a bond. And you said like initially we have those rose-colored glasses, which do create kind of a blind spot or help us to look at everything in a more light or endearing way. Over time, though, what you want to see in a healthy adult-to-adult relationship is a really good balance of we and me. That meaning that it's not just one-sided, that one person isn't putting in more and another person putting in less, and that the feelings feel good, safe, responded to needs, and you don't feel like you're losing your needs or your feelings to somebody else.
And those are complicated things to maintain, because it's something that has to be worked on both as a couple, as a couple of individuals, but also on an independent basis too, to ensure that you are making those checks and those balances in your relationships. And for yourself too, so that you don't fall into some of those sorts of situations. And so, what is your advice to sort of set aside some of those love feelings and those emotions that may blind you with those rose-colored glasses in order to stay objective in your relationship, both on your own perspective, but also in the ways that someone else's behavior may be affecting you?
Sure. I love that you said that. I work with a therapist who's described this as like working on this as a three-legged stool, right? So it requires each individual leg, each individual person to be strong, and then also the relationship to be strong. And so when you think about your relationship like that, that's where there's really the most balance in a healthy relationship. So there are some behaviors that are problematic that maybe aren't entirely clear at the early start of a relationship, but maybe sort of evolve over time. And one has been given the name in recent years called love bombing. So this differs from when someone's just showering you with adoration at the initial phase of your relationship. That's actually a very good and healthy thing. Also, keep in mind, some people are just more vocal and verbal with positive praise, and so they're more inclined to share these things. What makes love bombing different is that they do it very intensely at the start of a relationship, really as a method to manipulate a person to becoming in a relationship with them, where maybe they wouldn't ordinarily if that love bombing didn't occur. And the person gets so intoxicated with this love bombing that what happens next is it can feel quite shocking. The person may sort of deny their feelings, may disregard the other person. It's like sort of once they have you in, then those feelings aren't in play anymore, which differs from a healthier relationship where if someone showers you with a lot of adoration, you may see it dwindle over time just because, we become sort of habitual in our relationships, or they may keep it up, which is great. But if you see that kind of nosedive, that may be a sign of manipulation, which is called love bombing.
And so in those sorts of situations, again, it goes back to sort of trying to stay objective and be able to evaluate your situation in your relationship and that full dynamic between yourself and your partner. So what advice do you have for individuals to be able to take a step back and evaluate where they're at in the relationship, where sort of the behaviors that are being displayed by their partner, especially in their ways of expressing love or expressing their appreciation for one another, in order to maybe notice if they're being love bombed?
Sure. I think, initially, if it isn't something you like, now it's one thing to just not be familiar with that kind of praise, or perhaps if you have a bit of insecurity or whatever, it may feel a little overwhelming to you. But if it really doesn't fit with you, it feels greater intensity than what really makes sense to you, and even what you know about yourself. If they're, like, oh my God, you're the best cook in the whole world. And you're like, I know I'm really not. Like, what is the meaning and purpose of this? Certainly gently inquiring with them, or even informing them and letting them know, I don't need this kind of gratitude for things that don't feel right to me, that there are actually many other things I'd love to be noticed and recognized for, and this isn't necessarily one. And see how it's responded to. If it's responded to with rejection, denial, rage, or even just piling on more of the same, even though you've asked not, that might be a sign that it's not about you or your intentions or what you would like. It's about them and what they want. And that would be a cause for pause.
We're joined on today's program by Carrie Krawiec, therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, for a weekly mental health talk. You can get in contact with them for more information and consultation on their website, birminghammaple.com. Birminghammaple.com is their website for more information and to get in contact with Carrie and the team at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. But love bombing, Carrie, is not the only way that that someone may use manipulation tactics alongside the emotions, the often blinding emotions of love, in order to manipulate someone else that they're in a relationship with, or someone else that may be feeling love for that person. What are some other ways that love can kind of be twisted into manipulation and really affect people in a negative way?
Sure, and absolutely. And I think some of these are intentional and some are unintentional, or some are conscious and unconscious. Not everybody knowingly is doing harmful behaviors. They may have learned them themselves. They also work, so they may be subliminally getting reinforced by doing things without recognizing that there's hurt or harm interlaced in the behavior. So it really takes time and attention and work to sort of correct some of these things. Another one is called breadcrumbing. So this is one that's gotten a little popular traction also on social media. Breadcrumbing is the equivalent of what we used to call stringing someone along. So it may be just enough flirting, and you get those euphoric love feelings. You want to stay connected to them. You want to, you're excited when you get a message or you get some attention, but it's sort of few and far between, and kind of one-sided. So it's enough contact and messaging to keep you engaged, but never really any commitment, like less commitment for face-to-face meetings, less commitment for introducing to other people, for escalating a relationship, just enough to kind of keep you on the back burner without getting too agitated or going too far away. So this is problematic because it's lopsided. One person is kind of holding the cards and holding the reins and deciding how it goes, and the other person's just eagerly waiting for whatever breadcrumb's going to get tossed to them, which really isn't enough to satisfy a healthy relationship. In developing of a relationship, like we talked about attachment, there's also intimacy, and what makes the start of a relationship so intoxicating is the element of risk, right? We make ourselves vulnerable, we make ourselves open, we put ourselves out there, and in a healthy situation, the other person's going to respond to that risk with safety and warmth, but also with reciprocal risk on their own part, meaning that they're also going to be sort of equally and oppositely vulnerable on their side. And in breadcrumbing, that's not happening. One person is a little more open and the other person is not taking the same degree of risk.
More information, again, can be found by getting in contact with the Birmingham Maple Clinic on their website, birminghammaple.com. Call them 248-646-6659, or send them an email at info@birminghammaple.com. And Carrie, as we continue to discuss this and some of the issues that can come along with love and with manipulation that sometimes does unfortunately come along with loving relationships, it all kind of goes back to maintaining a sense of autonomy as you are engaged in whatever couple you may be in, or whatever sort of a love relationship it may be, whether it is a romantic partner or it is family or it is a friendship. That autonomy is so important. And so for people that may be experiencing some of these issues or maybe worried about some of these issues popping up in the future in their lives, what is your advice for them to help maintain that sense of autonomy in these relationships without it turning into a negative on the other side, where it's neglect on your part and things can fizzle out?
Sure, I love that you said that. So, right, you kind of segue into like another kind of like form of love, especially in longer term relationships, which gets called enmeshment, right? But this is where really the identity between two people becomes blurred. Someone may forego their interests and only join the interests of their partner. They may feel how their partner feels about things. If you go out to eat and someone is disappointed and has a temper tantrum about their meal, then you also temper tantrum because you feel as outraged as they do. Whereas in a healthier relationship, each person's experience would be separate in their own. You could feel for them, you could have empathy, care, concern, but you wouldn't necessarily feel the same degree of emotion for the same issue every single time and lose your identity. I do say, like, right, we have to balance the we and the me. Do you feel able to say no to things, or do you feel like you're able to do things separate? Do you have confidence and pleasure when you're doing things on your own and when you're doing things together? Does the thought of breaking off on your own cause you a lot of fear or anxiety? That may be a sign that there's some issue there, that you're overusing your partner as sort of a transitional object, as opposed to taking some risks on your own. There are just countless issues, if where it even becomes sort of codependent. Do you have the thought or fear that your partner can't make it without you, or must have you present to rescue them or satisfy their needs? And if you can't just think about yourself and what you need, and balance what your partner also needs, if it's all you or all them, then there's a sign that there's something wrong.
And that's a good time to have those discussions as an individual couple, but maybe between the two of you, or if not, or if not getting to a point of progress, to go and seek professional help too, to mediate what issues may be arising there, what disconnects may be there, and that's a healthy way also to continue on developing a relationship, developing as a couple, but also maintaining that autonomy too, that as you've said, as we've mentioned, is so important to continuing to develop those relationships over time.
Absolutely. I think there's such value, even in relationships that aren't problematic, doing individual or couples counseling to learn where were some of these pattern of behaviors learned, how were things done in my household, what did I witness from my parents and their relationships and with each other or towards us as kids, what things were talked about, how were things handled, to really understand where our expectations and behaviors come from. And that way we can realize that we do have control over them, and that we can create healthy blends that are acceptable in our relationship. And that being said, not every relationship is the same. What is tolerable in terms of, like you said, a lot of dependence and less autonomy might be actually very fine for some couples, and more independence and less kind of connectedness is satisfying for others. And that it's what the couple sort of agrees upon together is really the healthiest situation.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, on today's edition of the Megacast, as we are each and every week on Thursdays for our weekly mental health conversations. Carrie, another couple minutes with you before we'll need to move on today. Anything else that we haven't discussed yet about love and about the way that it affects our behavior, ways that may be blinding us in our day-to-day and in our relationships that we haven't discussed yet today, but would be important for our audience to keep in consideration at this time?
I think, like we started, we talked about it, that there's a lot about the early phase that feels out of control, and with good reason. It's biologic, it's emotional, it's chemical, it's electrical, right? Like, so much is happening in our brain. There is a lot we're not really in control of. It can also be exhausting, where we might, because we're so excited, we're, staying up later or making more frequent plans, doing more than we have. I mean, I think even in the early phases, really helping to get each other used to what are our typical routines, what am I normally like, not when I'm in this phase, but really help inviting each other to know what sort of regular you is, in addition to excited, falling in love, passionate you, will help you also balance yourself and invite yourself to still pay attention to your workout routine, your sleep routine, how often you like to do activity, so that there's also not any like misleading or catfishing or whatever along the way.
Yeah, maintaining that life together, but also your own individual lives as well is so important to be able to keep that relationship strong and keep wanting to come back to sort of that solid middle point that you've created with that relationship. Carrie, thank you so much for your insight and for your advice today.
Thank you for having me, as always.
BirminghamMaple.com is their website, 248-646-6659 for more information and consultation. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, from the frigid cold a couple weeks ago to the warmer, more temperate weather today, unseasonably warm. That up and down in temperatures can have a big effect on your body and the tightness of your muscles. Plus, we're out and about, we're active, we're trying to maintain those New Year's resolutions. Stretching can be vitally important in keeping your body healthy and your muscles and your limbs loose and limber on the daily. Joining us next on the Megacast will be Sean Burns from Stretch Lab of West Bloomfield. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
When the temperatures are chilly, being together warms the soul. Keep the winter fun going. Help protect yourself and those around you by keeping your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Keep up to date with us and find our shows on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, as well as links to all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets that join us every single day live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, as well as live to tape throughout the weekdays and weekends as well. civiccentertv.com/Megacast, the place to go for all of that. Joining us now on the program is the owner of Stretch Lab of West Bloomfield, helping you with professional help to keep your muscles loose and limber and yourself mobile throughout the year. Sean Burns joins us now on the Megacast to tell us more about his business. Sean, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Tyler. Happy to be here with you guys this morning. Very cold morning, as you mentioned.
Yes, a very cold morning. Walking outside and just about instantly you freeze over. And no matter how much you're warming yourself up and getting ready to go about your day, that's going to definitely throw you back a little bit. And so just starting off to talk about Stretch Lab and your business, what sort of services do you provide? Because anybody can stretch anywhere, but in this case, you might be learning from experts.
That's for sure. You can absolutely stretch anywhere, anytime by yourself. But the real benefit, I think, comes from working with a trained professional. And that's exactly what we do at Stretch Lab West Bloomfield. We have a staff of flexologists that will customize a stretching program for you specifically and help you achieve the benefits of assisted stretching. We all, I think, do some type of stretching regimen, especially in the last couple of years. We're all on conference calls much more than we were in the past, on Zoom calls as well. And your muscles tighten up a little bit differently when you're sedentary like that. And Stretch Lab is definitely there to help you with all of those assisted stretching needs, especially on cold mornings like today.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there's a number of different benefits to stretching beyond just doing that for athletic performance before or after some sort of activity. Even as you mentioned, just being at home, being sedentary. If you're relaxing on the weekend, if you're sitting at home, watching football on a Sunday afternoon and evening, and then late into the night. That's a lot of time to be in one spot, not really moving around, and things can really, especially as you get older, start to tighten up. So these sort of services, they have a number of different health benefits too.
They absolutely do. The biggest health benefit is obviously the increase in range of motion and flexibility, and that really feeds all the things that we do in life, right? Whether it's an athletic performance or it's just walking the dog around the block. Most of the folks that we're seeing come into Stretch Lab candidly, a small portion of them are actually what I would say are high-performing athletes. Most of the people that we're able to help with our assisted stretching are folks just like you and me. They're just going about their day, and the benefits that they're getting from that freedom of movement that is unlocked by an assisted stretching program helps them do just that, get about their day with that increased range of flexibility and motion. The other thing that is a real benefit for our members and for anybody that goes through an assisted stretching program is a reduction in pain. Folks will suffer from chronic conditions, temporary conditions. I'm a perfect example. I get sciatica several times a year. A great assisted stretching program can help prevent and reduce the pain that's associated with some of those conditions. So that's another benefit that we really highlight to our members and to folks that visit Stretch Lab, is that reduction in pain, not just from a muscle standpoint, but from a joint standpoint as well.
We're joined by Sean Burns on today's edition of the Megacast, the owner of Stretch Lab West Bloomfield. You can find them online by going to their website, stretchlab.com/location/West Bloomfield for more information. Find them as well on Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield Township, and call them 248-744-6122, 248-744-6122. And so kind of just to go really back to the beginning on this, Sean, why should people be stretching? Because as you mentioned, there's a number of different benefits. There's a number of different ways that people can go about doing a stretching routine. But what makes for a good stretching regimen?
Well, I tell you what, the benefits that you get from somebody stretching you versus the benefits you get of stretching individually and on your own are significant. The stretch can be deeper. The stretch is being done by a trained professional. And those benefits carry into all aspects of your life. Again, whether you're an athlete or whether you're just a person like myself, a person like yourself that's just trying to get through their day, flexibility and mobility help do all things for us. We can perform our daily activities without pain. We can perform our daily activities more efficiently, and we're able to really enjoy life much more than we can without an assisted stretching program. It may seem a little bit of an extreme statement, but the reality is the more that we prepare our bodies every single day, and assisted stretching is a great way to do that, the more we're able to take on that day, whatever physical activities we have in front of us, getting out of the car, carrying the groceries in from the car, performing weightlifting, doing whatever it is that you're doing, having your body prepared to take on those activities through assisted stretching is a real benefit that we can all enjoy.
And it's also, as you mentioned, whether it's just average Joes that are doing stretching at home, or it's athletes that are training for their school athletics, or just their own gym regimen as well. Stretching can have a number of different benefits for them both before and after their workout. And I know that there's been a lot of different thoughts that have been thrown out there over the years from people that are frequenting the gym and in bodybuilding communities and in lifting communities of whether or not stretching is even necessary. But for those that are, working on their own fitness and are going to the gym or doing the home workouts, how can stretching actually benefit their performance and their improvement over time if they're adding in that stretching to before and or after when they are lifting or when they're doing other workouts?
Sure. If you're improving your range of motion in general, and you're a weightlifter or you're working out in the gym, CrossFit, what have you, you're able to carry a heavier load over time. And if you're working on a specific athletic performance like weightlifting, that's going to help you achieve whatever specific weightlifting goal that you have. The recovery is faster, the buildup of those muscles is more efficient, and you're able to utilize that stretching as a means to improve that athletic performance. And you can carry that out past weightlifting to racket sports, to pickleball. We see a lot of folks playing pickleball these days. And any type of recovery that you're doing through assisted stretching is going to benefit you in the performance of that sport. Your muscles are able to recover faster. You're reducing joint pain. You're flushing out lactic acid that builds up in those muscles after athletic performance, or after, as we mentioned, something as basic as taking a walk around the block. All of those things are a benefit that you can achieve through assisted stretching. So the faster you can recover, the more efficient you can be at that recovery, the better your athletic performance is going to be, no matter what the sport, what the activity is, all the way from high-performing athlete to walking around the block, carrying in the groceries, as I mentioned before. And the importance, I think, of doing it with a trained professional is really critical. Our flexologists at Stretch Lab go through 60 to 70 hours of hands-on and classroom training, in addition to being, they have to have a qualification before going through that training, either with a degree in kinesiology or exercise science, or if they don't have a degree, they have to be licensed or certified in a specific modality, such as yoga instructor, athletic trainer, or Pilates instructor. They've got to have that experience before they even go through our training program. So you're in really great hands when you're working with us or working with somebody that's trained in assisted stretching.
And also, Sean, as we age, the need for continuing to develop, or to really in this case maintain our flexibility and our range of motion, that's even more critical because of the different sort of ailments that can develop with age, whether it be arthritis or whether it just be, their muscles being naturally more tighter over time. I know my grandparents are in their 90s. They're very active for their age, certainly, but at the same time, they are someone that there's in a range of people that tend to not really recover as quickly as those in younger populations. And so especially for those that are in more elderly age groups, stretching can also be immensely helpful for them to maintain their mobility and their health as they continue to grow older.
Absolutely. In fact, we see in our studio right now, the average age is closer to 54 years old. We see a lot of our more senior community members coming in and really getting those benefits. Our muscles tend to, for lack of a better word, shrink or atrophy as we get older. Stretching elongates that muscle. And you mentioned mobility in general as you get older being really, really critical for us. Yeah, the more mobile, the more elastic we can keep our muscles as we are aging, and assisted stretching certainly helps with that, the more freedom we're going to enjoy into our senior years. And I think everybody wants that most of all. Freedom of movement. We don't want to be dependent on someone to help us or a device to help us like a walker if we don't have to have that. And an assisted stretching program applied consistently over time helps keep those muscles elastic, helps them elongate, and helps us to enjoy that freedom of movement that we all want. And you're especially right about the folks that are aging. You want to absolutely invest in your body when you can, so that you're protecting yourself from injury throughout your lifetime.
So we just got a few more minutes with you, Sean, before we let you go today, a couple more minutes. So I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us about your services, and when someone does go into Stretch Lab in West Bloomfield, what are they going to be experiencing?
Oh, thanks, Tyler. I'd love to share that. So one of the first things that we do with someone that walks into a Stretch Lab is we'll put you onto our map, which gives us a mobility assessment, shows us the areas of restriction and tightness that you have in your body. And it really informs our flexologists of where to start a customized stretching program for our members. And then you go onto the bench, whether it's a 25-minute or a 50-minute session. And then we take that information from maps and we apply it into the stretch program that we're doing, or the flexologist is doing with you for that 25 or 50-minute session. And they're checking in constantly with you to ensure that the stretch is working and that the tension that we're looking to create around the stretch is appropriate. Stretching shouldn't hurt. I think that's maybe a misconception. Stretching should feel tense, but it should not be painful. And our flexologists ensure that we're working with a tension scale during that 25 or 50-minute session to ensure that you're safe, they're safe, and that you're getting the biggest benefit out of that stretch possible. And then after that session is completed, our flexologist will take notes. We call them keynotes, so that when you come into the studio again, the next flexologist that's working with you if it's not the same one, can pick up right where the last flexologist left off and can continue that customization for your stretch routine that was discovered during the MAPS process and during the previous session. And then finally, what we do with all of our members is we assign them a little bit of homework. We want them to be accountable to themselves, and we want to be accountable to them as well when they're outside of the studio. And we've got some video content that is available to our members through our Exponential Plus app, and they can do 5 to 10 minute individual stretch routines to keep the benefits that they're experiencing in studio happening outside the studio, so that we're that much more effective when they come back in. It's a great environment. It's a very open concept. We've got some great art on the walls, a little boutique fitness area, retail area for recovery tools and grip socks, the things that you would need to have a great session with us at Stretch Lab in West Bloomfield.
You can find them just south of Maple Road on Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield Township, and call them 248-744-6122. Sean, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Appreciate having you on this warm Thursday morning, Sean, to tell us more about all the different things that you're doing at Stretch Labs to help people here in West Bloomfield and the surrounding areas keep themselves in good health now and in the future, no matter what their situation may be. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, it's time for our bi-weekly Oakland Schools Education Insider. That's up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Pauline didn't flush. Ooh, I smell cookies. I smell an A+. How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
My Michigan TV is streaming everywhere on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and more smart TV apps. My Michigan TV is on your phone too. Take us with you wherever you go. Just search for My Michigan TV on your favorite app store or visit mymitv.com. All Michigan, streaming everywhere. My Michigan TV.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more about our program and keep up to date with us on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. We will also find direct links to every single one of our partnering stations, including those in your local area. Joining us now on the Megacast for our bi-weekly Oakland Schools Education Insider is Phil Kimmel, STEM Consultant with Oakland Schools. Phil, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to discuss it with you guys.
Yeah, glad to have you on, as STEM has become more and more of a focal point in our school systems in the last decade or so, as it continues to become more of a focal point in industries across the board in the U.S. and around the world. So in Oakland Schools, what sort of is the focus at this time on STEM education and evolving that over the past few years into where it needs to be to give kids the best education today?
Yeah, so I think it's important to also start off on kind of our role as well and show students and educators that there are ways of modeling our own experiences and showing them that there's a potential for students. So we really focus on learning agility and making sure that students have the ability to be agile learners and can change and navigate the times accordingly. And then I think it's also important to mention that I am part of an awesome STEM team at Oakland Schools. So Lauren Marshalletta and Melanie Hemmert are also working as STEM consultants, and we really love, finding ways of helping educators find innovative ways to engage students. And really, we should probably be called engagement consultants. But to question, STEM's kind of always been around. It traditionally has stood for science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's been here because people have been doing that kind of stuff for a while, but recently it's focusing on that cross-curricular manner. So how do they all coexist? How do they commingle? And then how can we maybe infiltrate ELA classes or social studies classes and do some sneaky STEM? And then it's a way of thinking, right? That's the bottom line, is getting educators to think about how they can facilitate an educational experience that helps students identify problems and ultimately work on the problems that they want to solve. So I think that's the important part here, and how it's kind of evolving from there.
Yeah, and it's sort of become a buzzword in the past few years too, and when talking in the education space, to mention STEM and how important that is, and really putting the focus on those STEM-related classes. But in reality, I mean, just from the way that you're even explaining it now as a STEM consultant with Oakland Schools, it really is an all-encompassing way of thought and way of learning that you are helping develop in these kids in the K through 12 schools in our local area. Because in one way, it's very technical education, but it's also sort of establishing those pillars of creative thought also while applying these different concepts all together.
Without a doubt. Yeah, you nailed it. And so one of the focuses for us at Oakland Schools is trying to really focus on K-12 learning community and what does STEM look like for them, but ultimately what does it look like for career readiness, right? And it's pretty easy because in our mind, STEM is career readiness. That if you're doing STEM correctly, you're preparing them for future jobs or future opportunities, and just helping them become aware of those opportunities, then helping them explore those opportunities and eventually prepare for a career or whatever pathway they might be on. And previously, I kind of talked about the traditional sense of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, but at the heart of it, that's truly what we're trying to do, is help them find their passions. I know for me, my career path was all over the place. I thought I was going to be an astronaut at first. And then I realized that the cardboard box that I was sitting in when I was 3 years old was never going to fly to the moon, right? So I had to change and adapt and kind of learn new priorities. But in that, what we're really focusing on is changing that STEM doesn't have to stand for science, technology, engineering, and math. It could potentially stand for stuff that excites me, right? Because if I focus on what excites me, then I'm a learner who's going to find out what's important to me, what problems are important, and maybe I find out what I like about the STEM field. Maybe I like the way that it works, the way that it looks, the way that something's programmed. Maybe I just want to figure out how this piece of equipment is going to help someone, right? So being able to evolve in that setting is critical as well.
Yeah, and just to circle back to what you mentioned about career readiness and how these STEM programs really do help establish that career readiness and that career exploration. It's great at the middle school level as you're starting to explore that, and certainly at the high school level as you're preparing to move on from your K through 12 schooling to either higher education, skilled trade, or right into the workforce directly. But at those younger ages too, how does the STEM learning get applied in a way that helps them sort of establish that base and lead them to eventually be ready for those sorts of critical thinking exercises that ultimately will lead them to start setting themselves up for those future decisions?
Yeah, I think that's important to realize that it starts at a kindergarten level, right? So that's why we focus K-12, because realistically, if we're only looking at high school or preparing them for whatever pathway they might be on, it may be I don't want to ever say that it's too late, but they might have already picked something because they didn't have an opportunity to know that it was even possible. We like introducing this concept to students, help them find out what they like, what they're good at doing, and what somebody will pay you to do. And if you find that, then you have a really cool career pathway. And I think that's important. So what does it kind of look like in the classroom? it depends on different levels, right? And so I mentioned earlier at the elementary level, we're really trying to just get students aware, right? STEM is out there, STEM careers are out there, what pathways they might have. And then we can look in the middle school level and start exploring those, maybe through after school programs or various elective courses or whatever opportunities might present themselves. And then at the high school level, we're looking at preparedness. So how might we set this student up on a pathway that's going to help be successful and get them into that career that they, like I said, that they like doing, that they're good at doing, and that somebody will pay them to do. So I think that's the important part there.
We're joined on today's
and we
program.
also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Just the last thing to round out there, Oakland Schools, we're really trying to focus on every student becoming career ready. So when a student graduates, they have a plan and really can attack whatever options that are presented or put in front of them. So.
We're joined by Phil Kimmel, one of the STEM consultants at Oakland Schools, on today's edition of the Megacast, one of our bi-weekly Oakland Schools Education Insider segments on the Megacast. Join us bi-weekly on Thursdays to learn more about what's going on in Oakland Schools, our local ISD for school districts throughout Oakland County. And Phil, one of the services that is provided in STEM for schools across Oakland County is this really cool investment that Oakland Schools has put in called the STEMi. It's a 1,000 square foot mobile lab. Tell us about that and how that's applied to put some of these concepts of STEM into action in our classrooms and outside of our classrooms across our community.
Yeah, you nailed that on the last part there, outside of it as well, because just to start with the STEMi, it's something we are super excited about, pun intended, but it rolled out a couple of years ago, and we are really trying to drive career readiness. So at the heart of it, it is STEM on a semi. So we thought STEMi would be an appropriate name. And what it does is it travels around to each of the districts within Oakland County, and our goal is to really try and spark interest, right? Helping students find what they like to do, what we mentioned. And so this ties directly into what we discussed earlier about finding out what they particularly like. So they get to interact with, at the current time, we have 6 different industry level experiences. So there's the ability to solve problems on collaborative robots. So working with the robots to solve something. Simulation, so both construction simulators and medical simulators. So finding out, do I like what it feels like to operate heavy machinery or perform a surgery? We also have what's called a mixed reality headset, where they get to mix their virtual world with an augmented reality and their real world around them. So they get to design, create, build, and interact in that way. And then another experience that we have on there, self-driving vehicles. Obviously, that's becoming, the now. I wouldn't even say it's the future. It's the now. It's here. We'll just have to get better at it. But it's also not just self-driving or smart vehicles. It's also a smart infrastructure. So how do those cars talk with stop signs, street lights, other vehicles, buildings, the road, right? And they can alter their pathways on that experience. And then the last experience they get to have a chance with is a 3D design studio. So students get to create digital content that actually pops out at them. And so then they can analyze their designs from all different angles. And my favorite example is we had a student on there that said, I'm not a fan of any of this technology, but when we asked her what she wanted to do, she said, I want to be a fashion designer. And I said, couldn't you use that 3D design studio to create your dresses, purses, shoes, different fashions that are coming down the pipeline? And she said, oh, I understand, right? So seeing that concept right in front of them to kind of build that model and pathway for that individual student.
That's making those pathways, making those connections, and showing just how these things can apply in so many different areas of interest. Phil, we have to go, but I appreciate your time telling us more about these really interesting projects you have going on, all the great STEM initiatives happening in Oakland Schools.
You got it. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Anyone, you can learn more about Oakland Schools STEMi by visiting OSED Foundation And you can just scroll under their programs at the top of the screen and click on STEMI. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. You can always find us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Big thank you to our guests and to our crew as well. That's today's show. We'll return soon with a new episode.